So I'm talking a little bit about who I am, but I guess it's equally just as important as how I do things. What I do, you can see in other videos, but this is how I do it. First of all, it's very humbling to be trusted with somebody's, as I said to one client today, I said, very funny, God, very, very cool lady, very smart, great energy, great fun. And we were just chatting, and we were chatting about choosing a builder. And I said to her, I said, after choosing your partner, this is probably the biggest choice in actually partnering with somebody on a massive scale. And she just started laughing her head off and said, "Oh God, I'm going to run and tell my husband." And she was laughing her head off. But in the laughter is the reality, the trust. And it's very humbling to be trusted by people. It's very rewarding. Can't be emphasized, can't really be talked about. It is what it is. And you can demonstrate it, but you certainly can't talk about it. And how do you contain that trust, and how do you contain the dynamics in the process? Usually by saying nothing. And that's extremely hard for me. Usually by containment, by silence, by inference, by checking in with them regularly, by letting them know you're there to be listened to, by explaining things. These are highly intelligent people, probably, and we all know probably a lot more intelligent than me. But it isn't about that. It's about where they're at. You can have a doctor or a lawyer, and one female medical practitioner said, "Jesus, Rory, I don't have a clue what's going on." And how long would I last in medicine? Maybe about 30 seconds. They're different genres. So it's about containment. It's about creating space. It's about then making sure that the people that are brought into the process, the design team, the architects, and I'm fortunate enough to work with some brilliant architects. Cameron, work an awful lot with Sean, Claire, Sarah, brilliant architects. If I left anybody out, I'm sorry. Years ago, my father was a builder, and he worked with a toxic architect whose whole mission was to screw builders. And certainly will not be aligning myself with anybody like that. And architects are not that way. Even architects who work for the client and I work for the builder, they're absolutely brilliant, funny, feisty. So that's a huge core. The engineers, brilliant engineers. Michael, Hugh, and working along with Kieran, which is full circle, because I used to be a builder many years ago, and Kieran was actually the engineer that I had on board to certify works out in Killiney. So it's about the trust turns into a matrix of design team. Sometimes I'm brought into that by the architect, sometimes I'm the initiator of that, and it's about bringing people along. The next step is to have a basket of really decent, good people who are builders. Daniel, David, Greg, Simon, John, Peter, Frank, Robert. There's, without naming names, but there's a hint to 8 or 9 really good builders. And a lot of this is then historical. I've worked on projects with them before, so you're bringing, not only you're bringing a good team, but you're bringing a good team with solidification. So in terms, if you were to use the analysis of a container or a matrix, it's got roots, it's got cross pollinations. A lot of these architects all go to Bolton Street or Queens, they all know each other. So the bond of trust is implicit as well as explicit that you have to perform, and that's a mandate. And that's absolutely and utterly baseline critical, that you have to do your best. And then clients, it's a double way selection as well. And even speaking to builders, clients don't often realize that the builder is also selecting them and making sure they're cohesive, making sure that they are compatible. People are great, but it doesn't always mean that they're compatible. So the alignment of myself with the design team, with the client and the builder, and the compatibility that you built. People talk about signing contracts, and they talk about tender analysis, and they talk about takeoffs, and they talk about clause 36 about inflation, and they talk about retention amounts. These are only progressions, and these are only differentials, and they pale into insignificance into the actual relationships. If the relationships are good, you're all the way home. And it has to be an instigator. You have to be an instigator, and every single person in that matrix has a leadership role to fulfill. And mine is very much deferential. Try to be non-ego based. Try to be a facilitator. I certainly believe in humor. I know. It's a Freudian defense mechanism, but it is what it is. Don't believe in loud, overt, continuous things. And it's about going through the process harmoniously and trying to be fair to everybody and come through the process. And if you do that, what you'll tend to find is that the result is people want to work with you again. People want to, they know that they may not get away with loads of variations or extra, but that doesn't matter half as much as in there's sustainability, there's predictability, there's honesty, there's holisticness, there's working within a system, and a system that has multiple caretakers of. The client is a caretaker, the builder, when trusted, and trust has to be given rather than expected, then we get into win-win situations. And like, it's pure game theory, win-win situations. And sociologically, repetitiously, what is given has to be given back. What is shared has to be shared back. So it's about using lenses from, I don't read as much as I used to. I've now kind of challenged myself to be doing more than reading about it, to actually do it. But I was a ferocious reader, which is kind of strange coming from a kid who was dyslexic. But it's about using group analysis theory, sociology theory, psychoanalytic theory, games theory, personal development theory. But the theory has to play out the window, and you just got to be a good guy. And thankfully, that was very much role model for me, and wonderful parents, wonderful, sweet, kind, feisty mother. Archetypal Irish, brilliant. And my father was, what a man. He was my hero. Of course he was my hero, but he was strong. He was about 6'2". He was an ex-Ulster champion boxer. He was caring, kind, decent, and he had lines in the sand, and they were very clear. And cared for me, loved me, took care of me. But situationally, when he went out on the building site, he had to be a dominant force, and he was. But that was in a different situational environment, different time, different leadership styles, different impacts, different perceptions, different economic times, different values, different rules, different situations. So I was extremely lucky to be molded and cared for and loved and treasured by an astonishing parent and family group, and especially up close with my father. And it was my utter privilege when I left college not to head to London and get a job in banking, because that's what a lot of people from economics did, but to spend time with him. And it was the wisest thing I did. So if I had to say how I do anything, I would probably summate it that I would treat builders with the utmost respect and dignity that they reserve, and they get and they give, and that cross-pollinates across projects and inverts back into the matrix, which enriches everybody. And that is some mouthful. That is some mouthful. I'm sorry. I wish I had that written in the script, but the reality is stuff like this gets hardlined, and I'd love to think that somehow I do something miraculous or differential from everybody else. I don't. I only echo what other people already have, and their great relationships with their parents and their environments and their work. And I often swap stories about my daughter, who's in college, with a builder whose daughter is a year below, and she's going out on Erasmus, and I think she had something like 70 odd people to the house. So, but it's brilliant to talk about these stories because they echo values, they echo personalities, and they do what the one thing we all pray for is, it's validation. Validation, to be seen. And if I do anything, it is, God forgive me, I've never turned down a cup of tea in my life. It's not about drinking the tea. It's about, just to finish up, it's about validation of other people. It's about relationship. It's about just realizing you're part of a hub and a team and a community, and purpose and enjoyment. It's also about bringing fun and enjoyment and respect and all of these wonderful things that Dublin people are absolutely awesome at. Absolutely. So if I'm just one I'm just one of a couple of million people knocking around this great city, just doing it, and same as everybody else. So I don't really do anything else any different than anybody else. Maybe I use different language to highlight some of it or to emphasize it, but people are decent, and that's my profound belief system. It's about working with that decency. Thanks very much, folks. Talk to you. Thanks. Bye. I'm going to get home before I get totally... Look at it. You can see the rain. I'm going to get home before I get lashed upon. Anyway, it wasn't like that when I left the house. Thanks. Take care. Bye.